but I don't know how to do this. How many people came from other places? Is anyone here from Amsterdam? Shout out some of the other places. Belgium, Norway? You know I'm playing there Sunday, right? Okay. Are you going to come to that? But why did you come here instead of just staying home? You were here already? Oh, funsies. Okay. Norway, Belgium. I'm sorry I'm not playing Belgium. I just don't know if I have a fan base there. Apparently I do. And where else? Ethiopia. Who? Fiona? Apple? She has her own country? What? No. Where is it? Ethiopia. Oh, Ethiopia. That's probably closer than I think, isn't it? It's not. Some people are nodding no. Because I was going to be like, wow, and they'd be like, you fucking idiot. It's like an hour away in the train. God. Americans know nothing about geography. Well, no, because Joni Mitchell has that song where she's talking about being in France, and she's like, the winds are in from Africa. And when I would listen to it, I'd be like, they are? Like, Ethiopia, thank you. I probably wasn't going to go to Ethiopia. Don't have a fan base there. Who else? Where else? Who? Paris. Oh, I know. Great. I love Paris. I've been 3 times. What? So fun. There is a cool comedy place there. I actually, next time I'm just bopping around, I might go, but I wouldn't like book it in advance, so things were coming. Anywhere else? Germany. I will do Germany. I could have done Berlin this year if I wanted, but I didn't want to hop around so much. You live in Berlin, but Amsterdam is closer. Oh, Germany. I thought you said Berlin. I'm sorry. I heard Berlin. Sorry. Just want you guys to know I understand that Berlin's a city. You're welcome, sir. Okay, this is great. Well, I'm honored. This is really exciting. I might get emotional because I'm PMS. Period is due tomorrow morning. And I'm jet lagged. And I'm 45. So, I'm always on the verge of tears. Well, not always, but especially if I'm jet lagged and periods tomorrow. So, I don't always talk about periods, but it's a new world, and women are allowed to now, so I might mention it a couple times. And men don't give a fuck. This is what I hate, is that men have been conditioned to, we were always told men don't want to hear about it. Men never fucking said that. We told men they don't want to hear it. They're like, I guess, you know what I mean? They listen to what we say. But then you tell men about periods, and they're like, what? They're so into it, because they love zombie stuff, you know? So, they're like, you bleed for 5 days and don't die? We're like, yeah. And when they find out the color of the blood isn't red, they're like, what? It's crazy. I know that sounds gross, but it's the body. And body isn't gross. Body is beautiful. Anyway, I might be done getting my period within 5 to 6 years, so why not talk about it? Now, you're already a fantastic crowd. So anyway, I'm just having a good time getting to know you, so forgive all the chit-chat. It's very easy to get into this country. I don't know if you've ever done that. They literally were just like, come in. And I was like, so a few years ago, y'all had a problem with people coming through that shouldn't be here, so maybe tighten it up. That was a Nazi joke, but my point is, I didn't need any paperwork to get in here. They didn't care why I was coming. I went through and the guy was like, hello, what brings you here? And I was like, I felt bad lying and saying vacation, although most of my trip is a vacation. I am just doing this one show. And I said, but I'm doing a show. And he goes, oh, sounds fun. And I go, I don't have any paperwork for it. And he goes, why would you need any? I'm like, why would I need a work visa in all the other countries? I don't know. And so he's like, well, I hope you have fun. And it was the only place, though, that wasn't you're a comedian, I never heard of you. It's you have to hear of someone before you know they do that for a living. You're a plumber, I never heard of you, Note to self, they have plumbers here. Okay. But yeah, it was beautiful. I just walked right in. They didn't even look at the paperwork. And then I'm going to get into my 10 minutes. So this is great. So thanks for being here. Do you think there's anything culturally that we might not have in common that I could skip? A lot of my, not a lot, but some of my set is about being Generation X, and I talk to the millennials in a nice way. Is that a thing that happens here too, generational stuff? Yeah? Okay, good. I never know how much it's, And then I think the other stuff is pretty universal because it's about death and the environment and all that. You guys have global warming. Yeah, okay, great. I don't talk about Trump in my act. My set concludes with a story about politics, and he certainly is the background to it, but it's a sweet story about my family and incest. But we will get there, and nobody committed it, and so we don't have to worry about that, but I'm just warning you in advance that does come up. Just getting it out of the way, just want to chat for a minute before I get into my real act. Because I always hate when, like, I came all the way from somewhere. I'm not just going to be like, here are the jokes. Like, I want to talk to you. I'd love to talk to someone. No, I went to... Okay, so I forgot to get my Anne Frank tickets. Here's the deal. I know you have to book in advance. I get it. I'm not stupid. So I looked months ago. Anne Frank house, not my Anne Frank tickets. She's playing. She's reading from her book. Months ago I looked. They're like, we only release tickets every few months. Anne Frank house. Okay, great. So I set a reminder on my phone to beep and bloop the day that I could buy tickets to the Anne Frank house for when I'm here this week. Well, something went wrong. I set, you know what I mean? Like I set it for like 2020 or something like that. And so it never went off and I found it later. And it is set for next year. So I didn't get tickets. And then one of the days I can't get tickets, especially is tomorrow because it's Yom Kippur and it's closed. And I was angry for a second that because of a Jewish holiday, the Anne Frank house is closed. And then I went, but the whole point of all that shenanigans was, isn't it great that there's now freedom here? And I was like, yeah, but I also want to go to the house. So I'm conflicted. But I'm going to do that thing at 9 a.m. in the morning. They release tickets every day online, so I will be doing that at 9 a.m. And I really wish anyone I knew, anyone who works here, if you can pull some strings, I deserve it. Thank you. As a fellow author, I think Anne would appreciate it. But I did go to the Jewish Quarter today. I hate Nazis so much that I love to hate them. And I went to everything, all the museums, and I won't get into it because it was heartbreaking. But there is a man, I don't know if he's Jewish, I assume not, who works at the Jewish Cultural Center, and he took my ticket and he said, you speak English, but you're not British, quite observant. And he said, where are you from? And I usually lie and say Canada, or I say New York, even though I don't live in New York, but I have lived there, because it doesn't sound like America so much. And if you say Los Angeles, it just, too many questions come up. So I just said America, and then he looked at me and he went, like, come in the face, and I went, I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for him. And then he looked at me and he goes, he's harmless. And I went, no, he's not actually. And he goes, he's got some bad ideas, but mostly he's harmless, and you guys will get rid of him. I'm like, I'm in the Holocaust Museum, and you're saying the thing that the words, the same words. We'll get rid of these communist Nazis. And so he goes, I don't like him, but Ivanka is a great intellect on the world stage. I go, no, she's not. It's not an opinion. She's literally not. There's a video of her humping and thumping at an event. She's like, so, and Angela Merkel's like, it's serious. I go, she's not. And then he smiles and he goes, he didn't say you're just jealous, but he didn't not say it. Does that make sense? When you're a woman, you can vibe when a man is saying that to you. And he was like, well, a lot of women don't like her. And I was like, this isn't that. And I wanted to get him fired so badly. I'm sorry, Eastern Europe, but not everyone wants to look like a Nazi Barbie. We don't all want to look like that. So I went up to the woman that worked there and I go, I just want to let you know that he just told me that he thinks Donald Trump is harmless. I don't know why I'm telling on someone at the Jewish Cultural Center. They don't have enough fucking problems. And I go, but I just think it's dangerous for him to say Ivanka is a major talent on the world stage. And she goes, he's got a thing for pretty women. I go, every man does. But fucking pick and choose. You know what I mean? Or just shut up about it and be like, I'm insane, and I have a thing for pretty women, and I kind of like more of the Nazi ones, but I shouldn't say it, especially where I work. I should just, and if you think I'm being verbose by calling the Trumps Nazis, I am literally not, and figuratively not, and literally. So you can go see this guy. He's got blonde hair. I'm sure you'll be able to find him. But it makes me happy as an American when I go somewhere and I see someone just sucking at being a person. I'm like, you got him too. Like, it makes me so happy that, like, there's dumb people everywhere. Because I forget sometimes that they didn't all just come to America. Like, you have them too. You maybe hide them better or something, but it just makes me so happy. I fell down last night. You can't see it in these pants. This knee is just torn up. The bike, just the bikes, I respect it, but I got knocked down, and people rushed, "Can I help you?" And I just went, "I just need to rub my knees alone." But isn't that when you're in pain, like, I might have needed help, but I won't know it for 10 minutes when I try to stand up, but I wasn't going to try to stand up because it hurt so bad, and so I was just going like this, and the people were standing by, I go, "Just let me be alone when I rub my knees." Like, it was like a weird, like, I should have been like, it's not the red light district, it's this woman on this other corner with a weird sexual fetish called, "I want to rub my knees alone." And so there were just two people standing by, and for when I got up in case they needed help, and they were like this, and it literally for 5 minutes, these kind people stood there, and I'm sitting there going, and then I look, and then they go, they stood there for me until I got up, and I safely walked away, and then I turned, and then we waved, and I was like, "Thank you." Thus concludes my local opening. But, no, you don't have to applaud. Oh, guys, that was like a time to be relieved. That wasn't a time to applaud me. Yes, so what can I tell you? I had everyone has a birthday, but I just had one recently. I just turned 45, thank you. And thanks. I don't know if you guys, I live in America, which is like not a country, there's like 50 countries in one, so at least where I live, Los Angeles, there's this notion that you have to look young to be successful and whatever, but like, it's not true. And it's not even like the industry of show business that has ever once said to me, "You need to look young." It's like regular, everyday people that seem to be obsessed with looking young. And I happen to look young. I don't know what it is. My mother insists it's her German genes. My grandmother, when she was alive, insists it was French Canadian. I don't know what it is, but I just look young. And I do creams and stuff. But one day I won't, right? And so it's not a compliment to say to someone, like, I'm not upset that I'm 45, but every time I tell someone I am, like if they're younger, like I don't think anyone's taught young people what the ages are. Does that make sense? Like, they think last night, if I was 80, that knee would be broken. But when you're 45, you just skin it, and you go, "Oh, it hurts." Same as what happens when you're 25. Like, knees are the same. And when I meet, so in LA, when I talk to younger people, this girl I met once said, "I hate my phone. You know what I mean? Can't wait to be 40. And she didn't know how old I was because I do look younger, so it's like going undercover all the time. I go, "Why? What are you going to do at 40? She goes, "I'm just not going to use technology just like all the 40-year-olds. Like, they don't even use it anymore." And I go, "Interesting." "So what do 40-year-olds do?" She's like, "They have flip phones." I'm like, "Oh." I go, "I'm 45. And she goes, I think she was trying to sell me drugs, and I was a cop, and I was like, "You know that's not true, though, about people in their 40s don't use technology. My generation invented it. I just want to let you know that." And she goes, "I'm sorry." And I go, No, it's okay. I'm not offended." And she goes, "I'm sorry you're 45. And I go, "Oh, no. I've been all the ages." You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't born zero, I was born zero, and I got to live to 40. I wouldn't have been born 45. That would be a huge bummer. But ageism is a weird thing. It's like 0 to 40, fine. 40 to 65, gross. 65 and above, fun. You know what I mean? But there's this middle ground where people don't know what to do with you. Because I don't know what it is, but it happens all the time. I was in a Pilates class, and do you guys ever, they have this here where they say you can modify if you want? Modify means you don't have to do any of the work. But it seems legal or medical, and they can't ask you. If you're like, I'm modifying today, I totally respect that, and you just lay there. But if you don't announce it, you get in trouble. So this one day, I didn't announce that I was going to modify, and I was just laying there. It was 8 a.m., and this 22-year-old teacher came over to me, and she goes, "It's totally fine if you are, but are you hungover?" And I go, "No," and she goes, "Oh." And I go, "I'm just 45 at 8 a.m. And she goes, "If you need to leave," I go, "Nope, we're allowed to be outside for hours at a time." But I said to her, I said, 45 didn't go out the night before, got plenty of sleep, but 8 a.m. is the same as 22 stayed out all night and is hungover. And she goes, "That's really valuable information. Thank you." And I want to bridge the gap between me and younger people. I do not hate younger people. I was younger. And I feel, I had this naive notion that things were, in a way, easier for younger people because I felt like you guys can talk about anything. Like I have depression and anxiety, mental health. Lady Gaga has a bus and calls her fans monsters or something, and that's helpful. And they all get, there's a hashtag for everything. And I really thought people were okay, but I meet young people all the time who are like, "I'm anxious, what do I do?" And I'm like, "You can't Google it?" I'm just always so confused. But that doesn't soothe anyone, Googling it. It's like me going to the library growing up. I want to talk to people about it. And so I am not a hater of young people at all. And I hate, in America right now, there's a whole thing going on where there's supposedly this cancel culture where you can't say anything anymore. Every man that has a Netflix special talks about how he can't say anything anymore to his millions of fans that watch him on Netflix, since he makes $20 million. And so we can say whatever we want, but other people who may not want to be punched, because when you say whatever you want as a comic and then you go back to your bubble and your fans are out there rabid, they're going to go hurt someone, possibly, or think it's okay, or not even, at the very least, just do nothing and not care. And so that's why it may not be a good idea. Why does your act have to be about trans people? Why? There's no fucking reason. You're not edgy, it's not interesting. And so when people fight back, they're like, nothing's ever happened to me before. And it's the weakest looking thing that I've ever fucking seen in my life. Dave Chappelle called the women that were groped and whatnot by Louis C.K. brittle-ass weak people. And I'm like, your whole act is about how trans people got mad because you're hurting them and they're dying. And he's like, boo-hoo, my Netflix special. So you can tell everyone I said that, but don't. My point is, and I love him, I think he's very funny, but that, I have no interest in not aging gracefully. Now, here's the way you age gracefully, is you realize that you don't need to be here anymore, right? There are funnier people than me, there are younger people than me, and they will replace me, and they are starting to. Some of them are saying jokes that I said in the 90s. They didn't have TV back then, so nobody knows. But that's life, right? You gotta be Buddhist about it. You just gotta be like, listen, I don't matter, in a good way, and so it's all a ride, and you're lucky for any minute you get to do what you love. So I'm really not shitting on young people, but for some reason, my generation, Generation X, has gotten some bad PR, and young people do not like my generation. Maybe it's changing, but I found this out on Twitter. That's not a good place to find things out. But I had said something, and somebody said, your generation gave us global warming. I'm like, Gen X? No, we didn't start the Industrial Revolution. Listen to me. I was marching for all the same shit you guys were. Pro-choice. We still had people trying to take away abortion rights in the 90s. I was marching for the environment, but I just didn't have Instagram, so I can't prove it, you know? We called it deforestation, which became global warming, which is now climate change. And if you don't think I'm jealous of Greta what's-her-shit, I am so jealous. I was her first. But I didn't have the internet. I read a book in 1989, motherfuckers, that was about how McDonald's uses the rainforest to harvest their cattle to make the hamburgers. And I was like, what? And I became a vegetarian at 13. Thank you! And I wear leather. Thank you! I ate eggs and dairy and fish. I make no sense. But I never ate red meat again. And I was passionate about it. I was scared because it said in 30 years, and then it listed everything that's happening now, And I would make these speeches in the mirror in my bedroom to nobody about deforestation and how there can't be this much poison in the air. And my mother would knock on my door in Boston, Massachusetts. Jennifer, who are you talking to? I'm practicing my speech. For who, though? Someone someday will want to hear this. Oh, Jen, I think you're so smart. But no one can hear you in your bedroom. I wish there was a way for you to sit in your bedroom and reach the whole world. But it doesn't exist. My mom invented Facebook Live, is what I'm trying to say. So this Greta comes over on a gluten-free boat, and she's like, you all are horrible. And I'm like, she would hate me. I flew here, blowing up the air with fuel. Took an Uber here, and I'll take one back. I'm not a good person, but I do care. I don't think I could have made the same speech as she did, but I couldn't have actually done what she did, because deep down I'm an asshole. So if someone had said to me when I was 13, okay, get on the world stage, I'd be like, thank you. Hey, leaders, you're dumb. I read a book. And they'd be like, okay, great, we're going to take you back now. It's a paper boat. You might die. And it has to go from here to Antarctica. And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, there's no way I would have had her commitment. So I'm jealous of her, but it's really not just her fame. It's that I'm jealous that she actually can walk the walk. And I'm like, these are fun, huh? But here's the thing. We're not there yet as a society. We may never get there because we have more important things. But the ageism I was talking about earlier is a thing. So when someone tells you their age, unless they have told you it is important for them to look younger, you do not out of the blue go, I'm sorry you look young though. Every time I tell people my age, I'm not sad, I'm not like, I'm 45. Thanks for listening. I'm just like, oh, I'm 45, and they're like, oh my God, you look great though. I'm like, you know why I look great? Because 45 isn't fucking old, you idiot. Like, it's not an old age. Now, I know it's not the same thing, don't get me wrong here, but it's along the same line of offensive of I'm telling you what the proper look is. If you said, I'm mixed race, and you said, oh, what race is? Oh, I'm black and Puerto Rican. Oh, you look white though, so that's good, right? We laugh because you would never fucking say that. I'm Jewish, you don't look Jewish, so that's good, you look Protestant. But if I'm 45, you don't look it. See, I know it's not gonna get the same laugh because it doesn't seem as important, but it's a big fucking deal because people in their 40s are seen as not vibrant, not knowing things, can't keep up. I'm fucking telling you, in 10 years, you'll be like, she was right, and I'll be dead because I'll be 55. Who lives past that? I'm pretty excited to be 45 because I finally can live up to my comedy material. 10 years ago, started doing jokes about the fact that I didn't want kids. Well, actually, when I first started doing comedy, which was, I was in my 20s, I did jokes about how I didn't want kids, and nobody cared because I looked like a baby, and they were like, shut up, baby, like, you don't know what you want. And then in my 30s, people were like, you'll change your mind. You're not there yet, but you're gonna change your mind. You're gonna start getting the urge. And I just never had the urge to ruin my life, so I didn't. Kids doesn't ruin your life, but with the environment the way it is, it does ruin theirs. And so that's why whenever I see pregnant people, I'm like, really? Oh, didn't no one tell them? How old do you think he's gonna very long with the, no, I've lived till 5, then no, have a nice life. Have a nice life. They'll die together, arm in arm, in a tsunami that comes to a desert. Listen, don't you moan at me. If Greta was here, you would give her the proper respect. If you don't find my show funny, I am going to ask you right now to bookmark something that you can watch later that is funny. Someone did a death metal remix of Greta talking. It's fucking great. And she likes it. She tweeted about it, so I was like, yeah, that's cool. Because I didn't want it to be like me. Anyway. But people are still saying the same things to me, though. So now no one's telling me I'm going to change my mind about having kids, but now they're sad. They're sad. Oh, you didn't end up doing it. What do you come home to at night? I'm like, I'm usually not home. As you can see, I'm in Amsterdam right now. My home is not there, so thank God I don't have a kid that's like, where is she? So, but people still say the same thing, but you'll die alone without kids. You'll die alone without kids. Even then when I was married, they said, you guys are going to die alone without kids. You should die alone. Even if you have kids, it means you did your job right. It means your kids don't live near you. And they have their own life. If you are 80 and your 40-year-old child can be to you within 1 minute of you falling in the bathtub, you failed. If you slip in the tub, ow, and you just hear, Mom, get out of here, Eddie. Mom, what happened? I fell in the bathtub. It's my time. I'm going to meet your father in heaven. Look at you, Mom. No, Eddie, you shouldn't be here this quickly. Eddie lives in the basement, and his mother doesn't want to see his face as the last thing in life. She doesn't want to see failure before she passes. She wants to look that nice duck that she bought at a county fair years ago, and she always put it in the bathroom, and her husband said, why is that in here? It doesn't do anything. Because I like to look at it, honey. And she will look at that and die and meet him in heaven. As Eddie bangs on the door going, why won't you let me in? Because you shouldn't be here. Anyway, so back to, I did not have Instagram. I cannot prove that I was an activist. Somebody on Twitter actually said, why do I talk to these people? I don't fucking know, because I'm in airports a lot and I'm bored. I'm like, let's see who else hates me. And so this person said to me, all right, if you were such an activist in the 90s, I get it, there was no Instagram, don't you have pictures? And I'm like, what aren't you understanding? In the 1990s, if you had a camera, you were a photographer. Nobody else had a camera. You didn't go out at night with a giant, expensive 35 millimeter like, hey, everybody. It was bulky. You could get robbed. You could buy a disposable camera in the 1990s, but that's $20. That $20 is all you have, pounds, euros, whatever, you get it. You don't have pounds here. I just start, I'm going to Norway on Sunday. What is their money and why are they allowed to be so ridiculous about it? My hotel is $488,000 because the krona is in a weird place. Does that make sense? Okay. It's not dollars, it's NOx. Just stop it. Just stop it. So, you spent your 20, insert country's note here. You spent your 20 on beer and cigarettes. You didn't spend it on a camera. Anyone who brought a camera to a party was like a narc. Like, what are you doing? This is pregnant time. Don't take pictures of this. Now, I'm not making fun. Now, I take 7 billion pictures a day before I even get out of bed. I'm obsessed with my phone. I fucking love it. It's a miracle. But I wasn't trained to be that way. I had to get into it later. So it must be hard to understand. There was a time when this would have fucking weirded me out. When email first came out, I go, I'm not fucking doing that. Why wouldn't you just call someone? And now I'm like, who calls people? Like, even if you die, like, just have someone text me, you're dead. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. I don't need to hear the bad news over the phone, like I'll see you at the funeral, you know what I mean? Like, I just have to tell you something, this person died, you could have texted me, then we can have a conversation in person. I'm still into in-person conversations, it's just the phone I don't like. So, my point is that, I don't even remember anymore, because that weird death thing was an ad-lib and it just threw me off. My point about getting older and Dave Chappelle's bit and all that stuff is to age gracefully, and this is why I like Generation X. We are Buddhists by nature. Buddhism understands that life is suffering and life is wonderful, but it's all happening at once. And there's nothing you can do about it. You have to be in acceptance every day that everyone you know will die, you will die. There is no, in quotes, happy ending. There's no happy, there's no sad. It just is. We gotta fucking stop, right? In America, there's a bunch of people that think they're having a revolution. A bunch of people in their 20s think an 80-year-old man named Bernie Sanders is leading a revolution. He couldn't lead it when it was revolution time. He's not leading it now. It's not happening. There's no revolution. What's happening is we speak up a little here, we're good to people over here. It's a constant battle between good and evil. There's no big revolution. It's not fucking happening. Let it go. But nobody told young people this. I don't know who raised the millennials and the younger. And I'm sorry to say the word millennial. I know it's triggering because the name of the generation is millennial, but the pejorative name for that generation is also millennial. And so they're always getting shit on, and people are like, millennials. You're like, fuck you. I know I'm just saying the years you were born. But I want to be the Generation X big sister to tell you, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But when we see younger people who actually think they're making a difference, we're like, oh my God, that's so sad. Oh no, nothing good's going to happen. Then the bad people come in again. That's what happened in America. We had the Bushes, and then we're like, yay, the Clintons. And whatever you think about them, at the time, Bill was on the saxophone, Al Gore was like, the environment. It was fucking great, right? Then we're like, everything's good, and we relaxed. And just like any good horror movie, the monsters were like, they're relaxing, and they're like, you know, planting something in the backyard. And then we had Bush again, and we're like, how the fuck did that happen? And everyone's like, because you were relaxing. We're like, shit. And so then we got Obama, and we're like, we can relax. And he got to go around the world to be like, hey, I'm sorry. And everyone's like, no problem, thanks. Like, it was so exciting. The day Obama left the country, we're like, thank you, Daddy. Like, he's going to go everywhere and show them who we really are. And then we relaxed again, like fucking idiots. But again, that's any good horror movie sequel. You relax, part 2. And then the monsters in a hot tub just blah, 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 blah. It's just like a pool of Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, every billionaire. Everyone's a pedophile. Blah, 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 blah. And then they're president. And we're like, oh, that's right. Because every 4 to 8 years, it's good and terrible and good and terrible and good and terrible. And I guarantee you, watch this in America. If a Democrat wins in 2020, we'll be like, it's done, we're good. And we're not good. 2024, again, a horrible person. Only like here in Germany do people do things right, where it's like, just want to remind you about the fucking Holocaust, okay? We're not forgetting it, except that one guy that works at the thing. But in America, we forget. We're like, I didn't see it happen though, did it? Like, we're stupid. So that is what I'm trying to explain to people, is that Generation X has this. We understand that everything is terrible and wonderful at the same time. And within that, I know that I don't need to be here. I'm in my 40s. I don't have kids. I'm not Greta, whatever. I'm not helping things. I'm not doing anything good for people. Maybe I'm making you laugh. Arguably, that's nice. No. It's not actually helping anything. Like, you probably used so much fuel to get here. Ethiopia, that's a flight and a half. You know, you threw paper outside. We made a mess. We made a mess of things on the way here. I'm going to make a mess on the way out. May not be good, but I know that I don't need to be here, and every second is a gift. But the one thing that makes me realize that I don't need to be here, getting older is not just about aches and pains, because thank God I don't have those yet. Again, scraped my knee last night, moving around tonight like a fucking bionic woman. But I will tell you. But the things that make me feel older is when younger people have no idea about objects that existed when I was young that don't exist anymore. So I was talking on stage one night about how cars used to come with lighters or cigarettes. And I was only doing this setup to the joke, which is not the funny part. And a girl in the front row started cracking up. And I needed to know what was so funny. Hopefully it was something I could repeat at another show. So I stopped the show to turn it into a workshop. And again, it was a small show in LA. We are not doing that tonight. So I said to her, what is so funny? And she goes, a car coming with a lighter, like, big deal. And I go, big deal, how? And she said, well, like, that's not like an incentive to buy a car, like, now. Like, oh, thanks. And I go, oh, no, no. Like, I immediately knew where she was going. I go, you didn't, like, sign away for a Cadillac that was $50,000. And then someone goes, here's a lighter, thank you. Like, that, cars came with lighters built in, and she gasped. She just went, and I went, did you not know that? And she goes, no one told me. And I go, they didn't need to tell you. Why would she need to have this information? It doesn't exist anymore. We don't need to know. If there's nothing to learn from it. You're like, she doesn't need to know that information. And so she just raised her hand again. She goes, tell me about it. And I was like, I don't need to have kids. I have people in their 20s in my audience. And you might think that that is me being upset, being interrupted, but I was like, sure, honey, well, a long time ago. But she said to me, what about non-smokers? And I'm like, oh, honey, there were non-smokers. A non-smoker was like half pack a day, you know. But it was hard to explain to her for a real minute there. She was like, comes with lighters. I go, built into the car. See, if I go to Paris, I might read some guidebooks and learn some words so that I can get by, like, où est la toilette? I know the words to say to ask for the bathroom. No one ever told me, hey, when you get older and younger people start to not know what happened when you were younger, you have to explain it. Like, so if someone said, what does that mean, a car comes with a lighter? I hadn't, like, learned the phraseology of it, and I just went, the part of the car, in the car, steering wheel, seat, lighter in it, and the car. I don't need to be here, do I? Smoking is so great, you guys, and I'm so glad that vaping turned out to be bad. You don't get to improve on it and think you got away with something. It's bad. We all need to start smoking again, and that is my message to everybody. The world is ending, past the tipping point, have a cigarette. Now, the thing that sucks, I have vocal problems. I can't fucking smoke or I lose my job, but smoke for me. I quit at 30, because that's what Gen Xers do. My dad is 80, but he quit at 78, and he's totally healthy, like lung-wise. He's from that generation that because they didn't know it was bad for them, no one died from it. It's like the secret. Now, my generation started to know it was bad for us, and our generation was like, we'll just quit at 30, so we all quit at 30. And if you don't quit, you die younger. Like Luke Perry literally had a stroke because he smoked, and at 52, that's when you'll go if you're Generation X. So I'm not fucking with that. I know it's sad to bring that up. When Luke Perry died, you guys know Luke Perry, right? Okay. God, America really does run the world. Like, you should know who he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, whoever Luke Perry is here, I have no fucking idea, and I don't care. Okay, so Luke Perry, when he died, my mother called me and went, I'm sorry your friend died. He wasn't my friend, never met him. And I go, why do you think he's my friend? I don't know, your father. And my parents are just fighting constantly. My dad has a computer. They both do. They call it the computer. It's on the internet. They use dial-up. And there's something on the computer screen where they just need to, like, make it smaller, like hit the minus button, but they don't know how. And so whenever they call up a news article, it's like, most of it they can't see. And I guess my dad, in hysterics, called downstairs to my mom, Jennifer's friend died! And she went, who is it, Ronnie? And she calls me on the phone. They have a separate landline because they have dial-up. They won't get Wi-Fi because they don't know what it is. And she goes, he said, what is it, Ronnie? And he screamed down to her, I don't know his name, but he's from Hollywood and he has a little bit of a beard. And I go, and that could be anyone. And I Googled it and I said, I think he means Luke Perry. I didn't know him, but thank you for the condolences. He is one of my generation. And then my mom gets mad and goes, your father doesn't know anything. I know a lot of things. He's not as hip as me. So I don't want you to think I didn't know. I know, it's pretty cute. One thing I really miss, besides smoking, is old school sexism. I don't know if any ladies here relate with that. But sexism used to be easier. And I'm going to do about a good 10 minutes on sexism. And for the men here, here's how we're going to go through it together. I've had men walk out of my shows in America. I've had women tell me they had a fight with their boyfriend after the show. And this sexism bit is mild. If it were spicy food at a restaurant, you would send it back and go, this is fucking mild. So if your boyfriend gets mad after the show, he's a piece of shit. And if anyone walks out, it better be because you have to be. This is some mild sauce over me. And I'm not doing it so you'll like me. This is how my mind works. It works very simply, I think. So we're going to do my sexism bit, and I think we're going to have a good time and we're going to heal. Because this is called good guys and women against bad guys. That's all you have to remember about sexism. If you're a guy that wants to go, not all men, that makes it about you. And it makes it about consoling the woman. And it's saying something that she already knows. It's good guys and women against bad guys. So just remember that. I had to learn the same thing. I'm straight, I'm cis, I'm white. So I've had tons of blind spots. I have black friends. Hold for applause. And the black women I hang out with had to tell me one day that, yeah, we can all make fun of like guys together. But then when I leave, that's when they make fun of white women. And I'm like, why can't I see for the white women conversation? And they're like, you can, but you can't add to it. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah. Shit. But I didn't go, I didn't own slaves. Do you understand the difference? My skin is part of a privilege that I have. Even if I've personally had a hard life or this happened, I get to do different things and be seen a different way than my black friends do. Again, hold for applause. And it doesn't really bother me. And maybe that's because I already have a minority part of my life, which is being a woman, that it's not hard for me to see the parts of my privilege. I don't get personally offended by it or have to prove to everyone, I'm not one of those. I've said, I'm still evolving. I'm sure there's a million things I've done in stand-up that are like, oh, that's kind of iffy. You know, like I'm still evolving. So, men, just go there with me. You don't have to be perfect. You get to be messy and make mistakes and not know and change your mind. And you can, it's like, it's all good. Okay, so then now we go into the sexism chunk. So, old school sexism was fun because it seemed very black and white. You had a job. A guy pinched your bum and you went, hey, that's not appropriate. And he went, sorry, little lady. And then that was it. Right? Because he was rejected, but he was a man who was part of the patriarchy. And back in the old sexism days, he was making the money and raising the family, and he had a job in the world. He was powerful in the world. So if he grabbed your butt and you said no, it didn't hurt him personally. There's some psychology to his ego that was like, that's okay. See you, little lady. And he walked off. Then, the other guy who comes along goes, you can't do that job, you're a woman. And you go, watch me. And you do the job really amazing. And he goes, let's get martinis. And then you go get martinis after work. And you're like, clink. And one woman at a time. He doesn't think all women can do jobs, but he thinks you can. And that's a start. That sexism was fun. When men were actually the top of society, it was easier to have sexism. And now, there was a brilliant book, and I don't always include this is for my stand-up, but I just feel like I can chat here, and people are like, where's the funny part? There's a brilliant book in the 90s written by this woman, Susan Faludi, where she talked about the backlash. It was called Backlash. The backlash of the women's movement is going to be that because men were looked at to be the providers and, you know, make all the money and raise a family and blah, 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 that when they're not needed to do that, not in a bad way, but just when that breaks down, something in their psyche deep down will feel unwanted and unneeded because men were never raised to show emotions or say this is hard or whatever. They're going to flip out. And so she basically predicted 4chan. And so that is what's going on. is we're not catering to the men in the proper ways to bring them through the transition too. So we're not trying to usurp their power, we're trying to have equality. Again, that old saying goes, when people are trying to get equality, it feels like, it's not that this is a saying, but I'm getting it wrong. It can feel like oppression to people that have all the power. But so it's like we're sitting in a boat, and the men are here, and the women are here, we're in our positions, and the boat's going. The boat has equal weight. Ever been on an airplane where they go, you have to sit over there because the plane has to balance? It's like that. That's where we are with old stereotypes, gender stereotypes. And then the women are like, well, we some of us want to be over here, and some of the men are like, well, we're fine being over there, so we're just moving around the boat. Weight is still balanced, just different people in different places. And we're saying to the men, we're going to move around the boat a little. Just don't freak out and stand up or the boat tips over. And then we start moving around, and the men see the women moving into different positions, and they fucking stand up, and they're like, what the fuck? And the boat tips over, and they're like, the women's movement's tipping all the boats over. And we're like, I told you, if you sit still, we could all have equality. So every time I talk about sexism, there's guys on the internet that are like, I'm one of the good ones, though. I go, you can't say that it's not effective, because guess who also says I'm one of the good ones? A murderer, okay? So, how do you be one of the good guys? Well, things have changed. Back in the day, all it would take is different things. But now we want the good guys to join us to fight the bad guys. But the good guys are finding out how bad the bad guys are, and they're scared. And they want to go back to the way that we used to want them to take care of us. They're like, oh, the bad guys sound scary. We're like, I know they are. They're like, you want me to go talk to them? We're like, yeah. Like, just bring it up on our own? Like, yeah. Can I buy you tampons? No. We get those delivered now, but thank you. How about a hug? I'll give you a hug. We have body pillows. Listen. We need you to start conversations about sexism with your male friends. I can't do that. They're too stupid. I know. Now you know what we've been going through. Should we kill them? I mean, that's what we like, but we can't say it. So, no. We don't need to kill anybody. Keep it peaceful. But what we need to do is listen. The problem is, the reason I miss old school sexism is because it's very black and white. But now that men aren't sure of their place, and I get it. In the 1970s in America, you could not have a credit card as a woman unless you were married. I was born in the 70s. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was 45 years ago. Wow. But it wasn't that long ago. So women now, this should be fun, but it's not. We love you if we're straight, but we don't need you. And that can be really scary. And so when the dynamic is just for fun, we can be choosier. And that's why we mainly just look at pictures of Harry Styles on the internet. You know what I mean? And then post-Trump, I don't know, at least in America, after Trump got elected, if you were single, you're still single. Because men imploded in America, even the liberal ones. I miss old school sexism because woke men, unfortunately, you see a man on Twitter and his bio is feminist woke. You're like, oh boy. I'm more scared of him than anyone. Because it means he thinks he's done learning, and he takes it very personally. If you're like, hey, from my experience as a woman, he's like, fuck you, I voted for Bernie Sanders. And you're like, okay, I see, I'm gonna have a long night discussing this with you. Can I borrow that scrunchie? Thanks. And then he takes it. Here's the deal. All we want you to do is listen. And not listen defensively, but actually listen. So there's a fun game I play. So we're gonna talk about sexual harassment in a minute, but before we get to that fun topic, we're gonna talk about my favorite game to play called Imagine Two Straight Dudes Doing This. Now, it's a game that's steeped in sexism and homophobia, but it's the point of the game. So, men. And it's easier sometimes to hear it from me than maybe your girlfriend, your sister, your mother, whatever. You are just starting to learn, it's not bad, but you are just starting to learn that women live in a totally different world than you, and it's not equal pay, and it's not abortion rights. That's a thing. But literally 6 to 10 to 30 times a day we experience things that you just aren't privy to. But the bad guys don't do it in front of men. So you have to just believe us. And I know that's like so hard. So we're like, everything we say to you, you're like, that doesn't sound bad. And we're like, I'm telling you it's sexism because I feel it in my stomach. And so let me give you a perfect example. This is what we deal with. I'm not even joking when I say it. At least 5 times a day if we've left the house. If we haven't left the house, could be 10 times a day if we go online. So I travel a lot. I'm in an elevator one time. Women, do you relate to this? It's late at night, you've checked into a hotel or anywhere that has an elevator, and a bunch of guys is waiting for the elevator with you, and they all know each other, this big group of guys. Do you get on the elevator with them? No. One guy, do you get on with him? Maybe. How about the elevator doors open, and you're on the 17th floor or something, and you're going down, and there's 2 guys in there, but they don't know each other. You might get on that, right? Yeah. And the answer is, because they don't know each other, they're not going to gang up on you, and one of them is not going to be a bad guy in front of the other guy. That's why it's safe, and that's the difference. So can you imagine having to, we don't even think about that stuff. It just is automatic. Group of guys that know each other, know. One guy, probably not, maybe. 2 guys that don't know each other, you go, well, why? Do you see what I mean? That's all just instinct with us. I don't know where I learned it. It's just instinct. And these are women I've never met from all over the world, so you gotta just believe us that it's a fucking thing. And again, it's not you guys, because again, I grandfather every man in here. You're a good man because you paid to see a woman talk, and I'm serious. That's a low bar, but it's the bar. So, I get in the elevator. I've got my suitcase because I'm in a hotel and I like to bring my things with me. Such a woman. And now these guys have suitcases too. So we're all in the elevator. Now I notice we're all going to different floors, and I'm like, ugh. I am going to be alone with one of these guys for a couple floors. Hopefully everything's fine. So we are all silent, treating each other like humans. I'm checking email as though I ran a business. That was a joke, I do. I run my business of comedy, so I'm returning emails. One guy gets off the elevator. We don't even say goodbye. Just, who cares? Go off into the night. Doors shut. 1 second goes by. And the guy next to me goes, pretty big suitcase. It's not that big. It's not a carry-on. It's the kind you check. A normal size. I didn't make it myself. You know what I mean? If it's a size of suitcase that's in a store, it's not overly big. It's a suitcase. He goes, pretty big suitcase. I go, he goes, you like clothes? Now, the suitcase was half full with books, because I'm a motherfucking best-selling author. But we didn't have to get into that. That don't apply. This isn't a rally. And I didn't even make my money back on the fucking deposit they gave me. Because to be a best-selling author in America means you sold 15 books. So anyway, I got books in my suitcase and go into an event. He says, you must like clothes. Now, I do. Not a woman thing, I like clothes. I don't answer him because I find this an absurd conversation. Especially because I just was in an elevator with him and he didn't do this to the other guy. So then, I'm actually emailing someone. And then he goes, are you an overpacker? And I don't answer again. And the door's open, he goes, get over yourself. And he left. Yeah, wow is right. This is every day, sometimes a million times a day. Not that literal elevator thing, but things happen. Now, when I tell guys that story, they go, he was just being nice. I go, okay. So now we get to play my favorite game. We can call the game 2 straight guys, or we can call the game, what if I'd gotten off the elevator first? Imagine me. I get off the elevator first, and the 2 guys are left alone. Just picture one straight guy saying to another, pretty big suitcase. Imagine this guy doesn't answer. You must love clothes. This guy doesn't answer. Are you an overpacker? This guy doesn't answer. Doors open. Get over yourself. That would never happen. A, because this guy would never do that to another guy because he respects his privacy. He respects him. as a person. So whether or not they're grabbing our butts, that's easier. Grab my butt, you're a sexual person. Try to take up my time because you don't think I deserve my own agency, that's worse to me. And I can't prove it to the other men that don't want to hear it. So this guy would have punched that guy on "Are you an overpacker?" because of homophobia, which is steeped in sexism, right? He would have punched him in the face because his greatest fear is a dick somewhere near him. And that's why men don't talk to each other when they're alone, because it's too confusing. So, that's a game, men, you can play. Anytime a woman is telling you something and you're about to go, I don't think that's that bad, now it's time to play two straight dudes. And it's fucking fun. It's going to get to the point where your girlfriend's gonna go, why don't you talk to me anymore? And you're gonna go, because I'm constantly playing two straight dudes. Now, guys, what do you do about this? If you see it happening, I don't know. You could say something like, hey, she's a person. You're gonna get beat up, but you gotta start somewhere. You know, in Los Angeles, we have earthquakes, and people say, what's your earthquake plan? Well, I have my sneakers packed in my bag, and then I have extra water. Like, why don't guys say to other guys, what's your sexism plan? What's your plan if you see another man doing this to a woman? What's your plan when you hang out with your guy friends? Do you ever just out of the blue ask them stuff about sexism and what they're doing for women? How fun would that be? Not fun. But maybe we should start doing it, you know? What's your racism plan? What's your sexism plan? What's your whatever plan? Well, I have sneakers packed in my bag, and I run if anyone wants to talk about such a thing. But I'll give you an example. Like, so a lot of times now, guys that are woke and are kind and want to hear us, it's cute, but they get like too dramatic because what we're telling them sounds so upsetting that they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So like, when I've told guys that like, oh, women have been sexually harassed since we were kids, they're like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And we're like, you know what I mean? Because like in a weird way, a lot of the mild harassment wasn't a big deal because it was just so constant. And so guys now are like, I want to listen. Tell me about your story of sexual harassment. And we're like, story? No, there's way more than one. They're like, I got time. And we're like, okay. 1985, I was 9 years old. We're like, all right. 9 hours later, 1985 and the next day. And they're like, oh my God. I saw my first penis when I was 4. Because I was a giant slut. And I saw a flasher. Now, I don't know if you young people know what a flasher is, but oh man, it was gorgeous sexual harassment. It was just a time when people had fucking style. Do you know what I mean? A flasher is a guy who shows you his dick, but he wears a gorgeous trench coat, Burberry, Italian leather shoes, silk stockings with garter belts that hold up the socks. Amazing. It takes you a minute to notice his dick because you're like, wow, look at that outfit. Oh, what's that? We were just taught to avoid men growing up. Men, the people that were our dads, our brothers, sometimes our boyfriends if we were straight, our friends, no matter what we were. And I remember my mom saying to me at the library, don't go down that aisle, that's where the flasher is. I'm 4 years old. Now one day the flasher changed up his aisles and I ran into him. Very polite about showing me his dick, by the way. Didn't corner me, didn't push me against the wall. Just, do you want to buy a watch? And then shut the thing. And I was like, ugh. And I saw a penis. I wasn't sure what it was. It was flaccid and that looked different. And not different, but it just looked, I didn't know what it was. And I told my mom, she goes, he must have changed his routine. Well, you don't go down that aisle anymore. And that's what it was like being a little girl. You just keep subtracting places you can go and feel safe, right? So my neighbor Chris, who was a boy, the library to him was a place that you went to get books. For me, it was a place you go to get books and guys show you their dicks. Now I'm 9 years old and we're going to the mall. And I'm walking through the parking lot with my girlfriends and our friend's mom is in the mall waiting for us. And now there's a guy jerking off. Now he's not a flasher, he has no style. Ugh, just a gross outfit on. And he has his penis in his hand. Now that's a different kind of penis. It's not flaccid, it's hard. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I thought it was falling off. I'm not joking, even though it's very funny. Because he was going like this, and I thought he was trying to keep it attached. So there's a guy doing this out of an old Camaro, swings the door open, and starts, for lack of a better word, coming in front of us. Now, I don't know if that's cum, I think it's pus, and he's making noises. I think he's having an asthma attack. He's going, ugh, trying to keep his dick on. This needs medical attention, don't you think? So I run into the mall screaming, his dick's falling off! My friend's mom goes, what? I go, there's a man, his penis is falling off, and he can't breathe, and he's pus, and he's dying. She goes, he's not dying, come on into the mall. I go, do we tell anyone? She goes, no, that's what you did back then. Don't tell anyone, what can they do about it? That's what guys do, they jerk off in cars, come on everybody. She said, sometimes men's penises get so filled with stuff, they have to let it out. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for guys. That must have been the flasher, and he was doing it. Oh my God, I don't know how they have these things, but I am so lucky to be a woman. I am just so fucking lucky, because I would not want to air that out all the time in public. Right? So that was the mall for me. It's where you go to get your ears pierced, and where guys shave their dicks. For my neighbor Chris, the mall, just where you go to buy toys, and nothing else. Now, I'm in 5th grade, and I write a poem, and I want to read it in front of the class. This is where I learned about the expression, boys will be boys, which is a horrible expression. It's bad for men, too. It sets up a precedent of how men should behave. We just elected a Supreme Court justice in America who raped someone when he was 19, and the argument was, boys will be boys, so you rape a little when you're 19. That doesn't have anything to do with who you are 30 years later. And perhaps there's an argument for that, but maybe 30 years later, you don't get to be a Supreme Court justice. Maybe you work somewhere to have a decent job, and you spend your time doing speaking tours about being a reformed rapist, and you help other men, right? Maybe you do that. Okay, so third option, maybe you get a second chance, even though you're a rapist, and you do get to be on the Supreme Court. Maybe you keep your shit together during the hearings. And you don't scream, I love beer! That's what he screamed. Because men can do that. They can rape, get away with it, and scream, I love beer. And everyone's like, I think that's normal behavior. Yeah, let him up, let him up. So we were told boys will be boys. And I had this flashback to the first time I heard it. I was in 5th grade, I'm 10 years old. And I wanted to read a poem in front of the class. And we weren't studying poetry, I was just kind of a weird kid. And I said to the teacher, can I read a poem in front of the class that I wrote? And she went, I wouldn't. And I went, well, I want to. And she was a friend of the patriarchy, this lady. Does that make sense? And that was another thing I wanted to make clear to you men. When I'm talking about is the goddamn patriarchy, I'm not talking about men. It's a system that's set up that hurts you too, and we need to all dismantle it together, but we need to find a place for you. It's sort of like we take your jobs away and we know we need to give you some busy work, but we'll figure it out, you know? But you gotta get mad at the patriarchy with us, because it doesn't serve you at all. And so she's like, all right, Jen's got a poem for the class, and so I read this poem that's about a lighthouse. Now, a lighthouse, I had never seen a lighthouse before. I'd gone with my family to this ocean town, and I saw one, and I felt inspired. Looking back on it, was the poem really about a lighthouse? I think I had just seen too many penises up to that point, because this is how the poem went. Lighthouse standing on a cliff, straight and tall, nice and stiff. One rock on either side. White foam sprays out the top. I'm not kidding. I got that far into the poem, and this mean kid in class, Ethan, yelled, that's not a lighthouse, that's a penis! And he threw pencils at me. And the teacher was like, everybody go on break, go to recess, except you boys. And I'm like, they're gonna get in trouble. And so I listened at the door, and she goes, boys, we all know Jennifer's a little weird. I told her not to read the poem. Now don't do anything crazy to her, but just know that she's a little weird. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I ran in, they ran off. I go, why did you tell them that? And she goes, Jennifer, there's nothing I can do. I go, what do you mean? She goes, boys will be boys. And I went, so they get to yell penis and throw things? And she went, that's what boys do. And I go, well, boys will be boys. What'll girls be? And she just looked at me like, probably nothing, I don't know, you know. And so I was full of rage that day. And I go to gym class later that day. We had a curvy gym teacher that used to make the girls jump up and down and tell the boys they could sit out. This is when girls were getting boobs. And I didn't have boobs at the time, so he would make me play with the boys. And so this one day, he's like, boys, we're playing stick hockey. And he threw a bunch of sticks at us. And I picked up a stick, And Ethan goes, you're not a boy, you don't have to play stick hockey. I go, oh, I know I'm not a boy. I'm not playing stick hockey. And he goes, what do you do with that stick? I go, I haven't decided yet. And I just circle him, and he starts getting nervous. And I hate this about myself, but I loved it. And I start chopping his ankle like I'm chopping down a tree, and there's wood splintering and blood coming out, bones coming out, not bones, but I wanted there to be. And he's on the ground whimpering, crying, going, why are you doing this? And I went, I can't help it! Girls will be girls! I got sent to the school psychiatrist. Now that is fun, because you don't know she exists until you get sent there. She's in a room behind the nurse's office, and it just opens up, and it's just like a lot of couches, and she's just sitting there smoking. Come on. You could smoke indoors then, it was glorious. She goes, what happened? I go, I got angry because she said boys will be boys, and then I beat Ethan with the thing, and I said girls will be girls, but I guess that's not an excuse. She goes, yeah, you're gonna see a lot more of this in life, kid. That's why I like it back here. And I just laid on the couch while she smoked, and we were just kind of like chilled out together. And then when the hour was up, she was like, good luck out there. You want a cigarette? I was like, of course I do, 10. So, all right, I'll do 2 more quick things. My mom tried to teach me. There was this thing in the 80s that you had to protect yourself in case somebody came along and grabbed you when you were walking to school. And so my mother gave me a set of keys, and she said, you put them in between your hands like this, and it's a weapon. And if a guy comes out of his car and tries to kidnap you, you do that. This is still a real thing. They sell this thing called the lady claw. Like if you watch TV late at night in America, this is one of the commercials, and you hold it, and it's supposed to like hurt a guy. But if someone's this close to you, I think you're fucked at that point. So, but I was excited. I wasn't sad. I wasn't like, why are guys hurting us? I just go, which guys? My mom goes, we don't know, so keep the keys in my hands. I go, is Dad one of these guys? My mom goes, so fast, so good. So, now that's a dumb thing. I don't have kids, but if I can be your mom right now to any young women in here, I will tell you, do not put keys in your hands. That is not a way to stay safe. You have to, we're just going to gender stereotype for a quick second. In general, men are not afraid of our muscles or our might. They're afraid of our minds, right? They don't understand us. So use that to keep them away from you at night. And act fucking crazy. Because they think we're crazy anyway. Fucking act it up. So this is how I walk, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in Amsterdam. This is truly what it's called. I call it the windmill. And I walk to my car like this every night. If you're getting in your car, commit to it, because the killer's in the back seat. You do a half windmill. And shut the door. And the guy's like, that's a fucking windmill. And he leaves, and he's Now, if you're tired, you're not able-bodied, and you want to modify, then you don't have to do the windmill. Again, think about how scared they are of us. They think we're crazy. Just stand on a street corner at night and yell, I have a need! And that's it. They'll run. I'm out of breath because I used to smoke. Oh shit, it's late. Okay, really quick. Okay, so my mom was really religious growing up, and now she's like become super woke. And she's 81, and she's bopping around like she's 50. And I really can't tell she's older, except she's like, see these lines right here? They're from smoking. I hate them. So glad I smoked them. It was so fun. Now, when I was little, my mom shamed me for having a Boy George poster. She didn't understand, what is he? Is he a man or a woman? He has makeup on. I don't know what's happening. Why is that poster on your wall? And she'd go, he's a little AC/DC. Now, that's not a reference to the band. That's a reference to certain kinds of cables. And if your cable has both, which is kind of a penis-vagina reference, it means you're AC/DC cable. So it means bisexual. It's a bisexual slur. Now, I think it's one of the most innocent bisexual slurs ever, and perhaps I will be proven wrong, and people say you cannot say that anymore. but I want to bring back AC/DC because I do plan on being bisexual. I'm not dating right now because I'm straight, and so I think eventually I know where this is going, and so I would like permission to say AC/DC once I come out, which will be when my parents die. Okay, so my parents go to a casino every weekend and they gamble, and because they gamble so much, they get free points. The points allow them tickets to any kind of show they want to see. The casino has all kinds of cool concerts. In the last 3 years, my parents have seen Marilyn Manson, Smashing Pumpkins, which my dad calls Matching Pumpkins, and my mom saw Boy George. So I'm asleep one night in bed in Los Angeles, East Coast time, obviously a little ahead of West Coast time. I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, it's midnight, my mom's time. I hope she's not dead. What are you doing asleep? I'm like, well, okay, but good point. And she goes, I'm at a Boy George concert. Jennifer, I'm sorry for what I said in 1983. I'm not very close, but there's a monitor where you can see his makeup, and it's gorgeous. And he's wonderful, and he just said, he goes, Jennifer, she goes, Jennifer, you know, I grew up in the 50s. I never went to concerts. I only was dragged to church all the time. I didn't understand how it could feel to be around this kind of power. Anyway, Jennifer, he just said, we're not men, we're not women, we're love. I'm high on life right now, Jennifer. And I'm sorry I said that. We're all love. And then she hangs up, and I'm like, okay. And so that's my mom, Miss Woke, right? But super religious growing up, not overly religious. In Boston, Catholics are Catholic, but they're nothing like Christians. Christians in America are like, Jesus is God, read the Bible. And Catholics are like, there's a Bible? Like, we've never seen it. We're not that into it. Christians are like, Jesus loves me. Catholics are like, Jesus hates me. And my Nana died at 99, and she goes, it's because God doesn't want me around. He's keeping me around as long as he can on earth, but he doesn't want me up there. She goes, watch, I'm going to live to 100, and then I have to go, or else it'll look weird. That was my Nana, and my Nana lived till like almost 100. In her mind, Jesus hated her so much, he didn't want her up there. But he couldn't he couldn't have her live to 120, because it would look weird. So I really hope there's a Jesus, and I hope that when my Nana got there, he held her and said, you fucking nut, But in her mind, she's like, hey, and he's like, what's up, Jeanette, come in. She thought Jesus hated her because she stopped going to church, but she went to bingo one Sunday. And Jesus be up there like, we don't have bingo here, honey, hope you can hang. My mom hates gratitude. That was something she told me growing up. We don't have to say we're grateful for everything. Oh my God, don't pray to Jesus, by the way, Jennifer. He is not God. He is God's son. He's a man. So if you tell Jesus your sins, he's just going to have to tell his father anyway. And then God's going to say, why didn't she tell me directly? So now you're in trouble twice. One for the sin and one for trying to go around. So I was taught, don't trust Jesus, which is a weird way to grow up. Every time I see him on the cross, I'm like, I see you trying to buy my trust. Well, I know who you are. So my mom would say, enough with gratitude. I don't like gratitude. She hates it. You're taking up too much time. Other people have prayers that need to get through. So even though my mom believes that God is almighty, she believes God cannot handle too many prayers at once. And that God's at a switchboard, like, calls coming in. Here are the gratitude calls. Thanks for my dinner, thanks for my pony. And people over here are like, there's a drought, we haven't had water in 4 years. And God's like, I can't fucking help you until the gratitude people shut up. I'm God, but I'm not God, you know what I'm saying? I don't know who I am, if my son's God, if I'm God, there's no time to figure anything out. I used to always ask my mom religious questions, and she would get so upset. Because this year at Christmas, she said to me, can I tell you a secret? And we did this thing we used to do when I was little. Put our heads down so God couldn't read our lips. So that's what I was going to say. When I was little, I had so many questions. She'd go, get over here. Here's religion. You go to church Sunday. Go to the earlier mass when there's no quiet, that one's shorter. That counts. God checks you off the list, you leave, you go to Dunkin' Donuts. Don't overthink it. So this year at Christmas, my mom pulled me aside. She goes, put your head down, I want to tell you something. I go, okay. She goes, I think this is all made up. I go, what this? This whole thing. Christmas? The whole thing. From Easter to Christmas. What did Jesus do besides get born and die? We never did. So I try to explain, well, there's historical Jesus, and some say, not historic, Jennifer. I didn't wait to have sex with your father until I was married because of a historical Jesus. I thought he was supernatural, and I was afraid. So that's why. So then she starts going, God, I don't know what I'm saying. When I get around this one, I start saying crazy stuff, and then she starts winking at me. So she's changing. As she gets older, she gets more liberal. My dad, on the other hand, gets more conservative, and that's sort of a trope that they say, that guys are trying to cling on to any power they have. Women never felt they had any, especially my mom's generation, so they get more liberal. And Nana got married when she was 18. She didn't even finish high school. She never learned to drive. Her husband wouldn't let her. He thought it was emasculating. She wanted to be a clothing designer. She didn't get to be. She made beautiful clothing. She worked in the mills of Lowell, Massachusetts, which is basically the Manchester, England of America. And she, that was her life. And she had, some fucked up shit in her family. And her husband wasn't really in love with her, and he had a lover on the side, and I think was abusive to her. So that was my Nana. And then my Nana raised my mom, and then my mom raised me, right? So this sexism gets passed down even within us. I'm not a fully woke version of myself either. I'm still learning things are sexist. Just like I was saying about the sexual harassment stuff, it wasn't until 2 years ago that I realized half the shit that happened to me was sexist. I'm like, wait, that time that person showed me his penis was sexist? I thought that was a fun one. No? Oh, okay, all right. So my mom's getting more woke, my dad's getting... When I was growing up, I learned two things. My dad is the greenskeeper of a golf course. If you've seen the movie Caddyshack, he is figuratively Bill Murray. Growing up in the 80s, my dad taught me Russia, we cannot trust them, they want to nuke us. When they didn't nuke us and the Cold War was over and we won, he said, Russia's going to go underground and do something even worse. We're not going to be able to predict it. So that's two things I learned from my dad. Was Russia's going to, so I forgot about the golf course part. My dad said to me, people who own golf courses are assholes. So that's what I learned from my dad. If you own a golf course, you're an asshole. Russia, they want to fuck us up, don't trust them. So imagine my surprise when during the last election, my dad voted for not Hillary Clinton. And so I was upset. And I said to my dad, this is not like other elections. We'll end on this story. I said, it's not like other elections. He's a monster. He's a rapist. This is disgusting. Never talk to me about him or I will disown you, and I don't want to disown you because we don't have a lot of time. And he went, what the hell are you talking about? You're only 43. I go, you idiot, you're 78. You don't have a lot of time. My dad's very respectful. He said he wouldn't. My dad is a cool guy. We have a gay cousin, and my dad goes, he's very big in the MPQ community. He wasn't trying to be facetious. He does not know the letters LGBT. He goes, when we have dinner with Cousin Tom, I do not want you, I know you think you're so in with the gays, but you can't just be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He's really like the head of the community. And I go, what community? And he's like, MP3. Like, he didn't know what he was saying. I go, LGBTQ? He goes, I think so. I go, Tom's gay. He goes, we don't say that word anymore, Jennifer. Jesus Christ, we say LGBTQ. I go, the G is gay. It's not offensive to say gay. He would call himself gay. Joe, Jesus, you're going to ruin the dinner. So he thought the community of LGBTQ was like an order that Tom goes to and bangs a gavel. It's like, I am president of the LGBTQ. Like, he doesn't know it's like in general a community that he's part of and that he's gay, which is the G. My dad didn't understand that. And so he's not a bad person. When Adam Carolla said women are funny, my dad wrote a blog about it and made me put it on my website. So I was really surprised by the Trump vote. And so long story short, I had a really rough 2 years, the first 2 years of Trump's presidency. I was getting attacked just by men in general on the internet. A lot of women were feeling betrayed. I went through a breakup. There was just a lot going on. I was unhappy. I didn't realize how much men, again, not you lovers, but, men, the bad guys that we're going to fight after this, hated us. They hate us. Even the good ones, even the liberal ones. They just fucking hate women. They don't even know it. And I've been really sad for years about it. So last Christmas, I had a slight breakdown. I was at my parents' house, and my dad wouldn't turn off the Fox News. And it was making me crazy. Technically, wasn't talking about Trump, but I could see his face. And I wanted to open presents. And I had 2 older sisters, and they were there, and they were just sitting on the couch with their stockings, waiting to open it and get their trial-size fucking chapstick. And so I'm in the kitchen, and I'm looking at my dad look at him with love in his eyes. And you know when older people start to look alike after years of marriage? Right-wing men start to look like Donald Trump. Like, I swear to God, I was just looking at my dad, looking at Trump, and like, they're the same, they're the same, they're the same. And then my dad looked at me, and I guess I looked so angry. It was almost like me bashing Ethan with the girls would be girls. I was just like, rah! I was in a rage. My dad started laughing, not because he's mean, but because I looked so angry. It made no sense on Christmas morning. And he was like... And he started to laugh. I go, don't laugh, I'm angry. He goes, at what? I go, at years of patriarchy. And he's like, what? And he was just like, and he couldn't stop laughing. And I just pointed at him and I went, I'm triggered. And I ran upstairs. Now, what did I mean by triggered? I just was saying a buzzword that people say. What I meant by it is everything I've told you tonight. From penis and the flasher and the thing to just I'm sick of blah, and I wish he wasn't president. And blah. Otherwise, my dad's been a great guy. I just meant, I'm, you know. And now my mom over there, Miss Wokey Woke, had watched the whole thing. Now I'm upstairs crying. And my mom goes on Twitter and she reads things. And she knows that one definition of triggered is it might be something you say when you're triggered because something has happened to you. And she knows that Donald Trump has been a molester of women. And so she thought it meant that my dad had molested me. So I'm upstairs crying. She knocks on the door. Jennifer. I said, yeah. Are you really triggered? I said, yeah. She goes, okay. Well, let me just talk to you for a minute. As you know, I believe women, hashtag. But I would like to say one thing. I met your father in high school in 1954. He's been the love of my life. We have 3 beautiful daughters, grandchildren. He's a wonderful man. But if he did it, I'll kill him with a knife. I go, if he did what? You know, you're triggered. I go, huh? No! What are you talking? She goes, well, one definition, and she tells me the whole thing. I go, no. She goes, you need to be more responsible with that word. You can't go around saying I'm triggered. Use your words. You're a writer. For God's sakes, you say I'm frustrated. I don't like sexism. I'm angry. You don't just scream I'm triggered and leave everyone up for questions. Well, I'm just so glad it's not true, though, because I didn't want to go to prison if I didn't. I go, Mom, even if Dad had done the unthinkable, I wouldn't expect you to murder him for me. She goes, you're a wonderful dad. So we hug, and she goes, you might want to just go tell your father you love him. He's real upset. I go, no, of course I will. It's over. And she goes, yeah, he's real upset because he asked me what triggered meant, and so I told him. Yeah, my dad hit his head a few years ago. He had an injury and he had to have brain surgery, and it affected his memory. So that's important to the story. And so my mom said, just go tell him you love him. And I went, I can't fucking believe you told him a word that you thought you... Don't blame me. It's a hot button word. You're going to be So I go downstairs, and again, my sisters are sitting on the couch like, what drama is this now? With the one from Hollywood, every time she comes home, there's fucking something. And they're just, again, sitting, trying to open their stockings and get their trial-size toothpaste. And they go, are we ready to open presents? I go, not yet. I have to tell Dad something. I said, Dad, I love you. When my friend came out and his parents kicked him out of the house, you let him stay with us. You're a good man, I know that. I'll never understand your vote, but we don't have to talk about it. And I love you. And you didn't molest me. And he went, oh, gee, I didn't think I did, but you know, the brain injury, my sisters go, what did you say? And my brother goes, he didn't molest him. Merry Christmas, everyone. And they go, please stop coming home. You never make anything better. And so my mother goes, stop being mean. Group hug. We have different politics in this family, but we love each other. And we had a big group hug, and my mom went, Jennifer, never tell this story on stage. And I said, I'm sorry, I absolutely gonna have to. Merry Christmas. Thank you guys so much. Merry Christmas! Good night. I'm sorry I went so long, but hey, you know what?